Today on the news and why it matters, the impeachment hearings and the highlights you will not hear from CNN. We have got a lot to cover. It starts right now. Welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sara Gonzalez. Got a pretty big packed show today. We have got Glenn Beck back on the panel, finally.
Just off the Rudy Giuliani interview, which was amazing.
Yeah.
And if you're a member of the Blaze, go listen to the rest of it, because I had to come do this show. So we ran out of time and we went for another, I don't know, 15 minutes or something like that. And it's amazing, amazing. You want to hear it.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get into some of the specifics of what he told you as well. We've got Stu Burgier, and also host of the Chad Prather Show, Mr. Chad Prather
I love
himself.
that show.
I love Happy Glenn Beck. Yeah. I love Good Mood Glenn.
Yeah. Not that I'm in a bad mood very often.
Yeah, you are. All the time.
We've got a lot to get into. First, we want to thank our sponsor, iTarget Pro. So iTarget Pro is good for those of you who are big Second Amendment supporters, appreciate the importance of owning a gun, but training is a whole nother thing. You can't just own the gun and not train with it. You got to train with it. And Glenn, dry firing is like the best thing you can do to learn your gun.
That's the thing. We're going up. I haven't fired my gun, my pistol, in probably 6 months. Actually fired it, but dry fire, we're going up to the ranch where we always just go shooting every day. And, I'll be ready. I'll be ready, because dry firing is the best, because it also teaches you trigger control. Mm-hmm. And when you know when you got it down to when you squeeze the trigger, and then after you slowly let it out so you hear that click, you stop your finger there. That's when you know, all right, I'm in control of this gun.
So that's how you do it with iTarget Pro. They give you a laser bullet you get from them, and it's specific to your caliber gun. Put it in there, and you can practice in the comfort of your own home. And as Glenn said, you're dry firing, so you're really learning trigger control and the pull of your firearm. You can go to itargetpro.com. If you use promo code NEWS, you will get 10% off plus free shipping. That is promo code NEWS at itargetpro.com. It pays for itself, like within one use. If you think about all of the ammunition, how expensive that is, I can't imagine how much you spend on ammunition when you go up to the ranch. And range fees, it's going to pay for itself in like one time. itargetpro.com. All right, so the impeachment hearings today. I don't know how much you guys watched, but I watched basically all day. And you're talking about happy Glenn Beck. I'm in a terrible mood because I'm just so annoyed at the spin of all of this testimony from Gordon Sondland. Of course, Sondland was the U.S. ambassador to the EU, and this was supposed to be the bombshell testimony, right? Because this was the first person in all of these impeachment hearings who has actually spoken to President Trump.
And if you're only watching the media, or you are buying into the narrative that the media and the Democrats are doing, it is a bombshell day. Mm-hmm. It is a bombshell day. But that's not the truth.
Well, so that's a great point. So that brings us to what I believe I've been seeing all over CNN. Adam Schiff keeps touting it as this big explosive testimony that Sondland said, yes, there was quid pro quo from Giuliani. Let's listen to Sondland talking about quid pro quo from Giuliani.
I know that members of this committee frequently frame these complicated issues in the form of a simple question. Was there a quid pro quo? As I testified previously, with regard to the requested White House call and the White House meeting, the answer is yes.
So this sounds very damning, right? If you're just right, if you're taking that just little snippet, okay, there was quid pro quo. President Trump said there was no quid pro quo. That's been his entire defense this entire time, even though I'm not sure why he went with that.
Here's the real, and I talked to Giuliani about that.
Did you?
In the interview, yeah. Here's what you have to understand. What he said was there was quid pro quo, but for the meeting. That's what Giuliani says, was you have to do this. For me to do a meeting with you, you're going to have to do this. Quid pro quo is done at all times. We're not going to meet with Kim Jong-un unless he does this. Okay, that's quid pro quo. So he says, in context, which the Republicans got to, Trump said in May, I don't even want to meet them. I don't want to do anything with them. I want nothing to do with them, all corrupt. He gets to the point to where, okay, I'll get on the phone with them. But if they want anything from me, they have to investigate these things, okay? So that's where the quid pro quo was. When I talked to Giuliani today, he said there was absolutely no quid pro quo for anything militarily. I think I screwed up because I actually skipped over the deal. I said, were you telling them that they had to do this or they weren't getting any of that money? He said, absolutely not. None. Zero. The president even is on record, and Sondland said he believed the president when he said, no, I don't want any quid pro quo. I want them to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. It all makes sense in that. Where Sondland is shaky, and the press will completely ignore this, is he said, so the quid pro quo, I assumed that was happening. Well,
on the
military,
on the money, yeah.
Right. Well, you can assume all you want, but that's not a fact.
Yeah.
That's not a fact.
Well, and Mike Turner of Ohio hit him pretty hard on that because, during this hearing, you had CNN, you had Adam Schiff even, but all of the headlines from mainstream media was Sondland links Trump to, quid pro quo, right, the withholding aid in exchange for an investigation. And so Representative Turner asked him about that and asked him to please clarify what he meant. And here's what happened.
After you testified, Chairman Schiff ran out and gave a press conference and said he gets to impeach the President of the United States because of your testimony. And if you pull up CNN today, right now, their banner says Sondland ties Trump to withholding aid. Is that your testimony today, Ambassador Sondland, that you have evidence that Donald Trump tied the investigation to the aid? Because I don't think you're saying that.
I've said repeatedly, Congressman, I was presuming. I also said that President Trump.
So no one told you, not just the president. Giuliani didn't tell you, Mulvaney didn't tell you, nobody, Pompeo didn't tell you, nobody else on this planet told you that Donald Trump was tying aid to these investigations. Is that correct?
I think I already testified.
No, answer the question. Is it correct? No one on this planet told you that Donald Trump was tying this aid to the investigations? Because if your answer is yes, then the chairman's wrong and the headline on CNN is wrong. No one on this planet told you that President Trump was tying aid to investigations. Yes or no?
Yes.
So, you really have no testimony today that ties President Trump to a scheme to withhold aid from Ukraine in exchange for these investigations.
Other than my own presumption.
Which is nothing.
Well, look, Gordon Sondland doesn't run CNN. He doesn't get to make the decisions for Adam Schiff. I don't know why he's getting assaulted.
I think Mike Turner, I could be interpreting this wrong, but I think Mike Turner was more upset at Schiff and CNN.
Didn't seem like it, but
I know. I think he was yelling at them through him.
Hey, I watched this whole thing. I am channeling my Mike Turner right now. It was disgusting to watch how the Democrats tried to twist the narrative on it.
Sure.
So I think that was what his frustration was.
Because he actually, at the end, kind of says, like, well, your testimony left the wrong impression.
Well,
it's like,
no.
He was very clear. And this one, I think.
Opening statement, hold on. His opening statement did not include the fact that President Trump had said, no, I do not want that. I do not want quid pro quo. He left that out, but he included the other stuff. I think that was what their problem was, just in context of watching the whole thing, was that they were like, why did you leave that part out? That seems like a pretty relevant part because that's your conversation with him about quid pro quo.
Right, and that is, I think, interesting. I mean, I do think that it's kind of a fascinating day of all this. We were talking about it was like it's a playoff game. This is not one of these other days that have been really boring. I think
this is not the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's not the Super Bowl either. But Sondland isn't an enemy of Trump. This is not a guy. You guys donated $1 million to his inauguration. So the fact here, like
the Democrats brought up.
Right, yeah, I'm sure. The fact, though, you can see him make that distinction, no, I wasn't told, right? You could just say he's just perfectly honest and he's only going to the line. But if he wanted to take Trump out, he would just say he was, right? He didn't, and he stopped there, and he was, I thought, pretty clear, at least in the testimony that I saw. And I did read the opening statement. I didn't see it, so I may have missed part of it. But like, he is making a distinction here. I did not, like, the real claim, no one cares about a freaking meeting. You're going to impeach a guy because he wouldn't take a meeting with somebody? The money is what it is because the Congress passed this funding. He's legally required to give it. If he's holding it back for personal gain, that's where the impeachment thing starts popping up. A meeting, if it's a freaking meeting, we might as well all go home. This has got nothing to do with anything.
Yeah, it's odd because quid pro quo is what Joe Biden did with Ukraine, and nobody cared.
Nobody cared.
And then a meeting in exchange for something, that's what made the Clintons millionaires, and nobody cared about that.
Well, and if you notice the lower third when they're doing that, I think that even then CNN has on the lower third that was what they were running with in terms of their headline. And I think if anything, the rebuke was, okay, there was a quid pro in my perception of it, and although he left the word perception out, they ran with that, and that was the rebuke. You stopped right there. You gave them fuel to throw onto the fire. Now,
But he was very clear and honest. He said, I watched the testimony, and he was clear every time. It wasn't good because I knew what the press would do. He gave the press their win, okay, because of how dishonest they will be with this. However, he, I thought, was very comfortable in his own skin.
Yes.
He didn't seem to be sweating on anything. I think he was being honest, like, no, it was on the meeting. There was absolutely nothing there, but I drew that conclusion later, way after all of it's done, because what else is there? But I think that's reasonable in a reasonable society.
in a reasonable world, which we've gone way past.
Correct.
Because when you watch this stuff, you're like, maybe I'm just not smart enough to understand what's going on here. So I try to look at it from a common sense perspective, as Stu is bringing up here, when I say, okay, as far as I know, there's no such thing as government funded. It's funded by the taxpayers of the United States of America. They use our taxpayer money to give it as in foreign aid and to these other countries.
And many times against our will.
As far as I know, we have never given money to another country without some form of expectation of something in return.
How about this? The State Department under Barack Obama would not give, I think it was Kenya, any aid unless they started promoting abortion.
Remember that? I do remember that.
That's
story.
quid pro quo.
Right, and like that's natural. And this is the problem. I mean, again, this win is given to the media and it's given to CNN, not from Sondland today. This media is because the Republicans have chosen this ridiculous defense to try to make this line quid pro quo. It's like if someone accuses you of fathering their kid out of wedlock, which, by the way, point out. Chad, I got some certified mail just came in.
Check.
Daddy.
By the way, this happened to Hunter Biden today. I don't know if you guys caught this story. Hunter Biden, positive DNA test for fathering a random child in Arkansas. Hunter Biden today. Totally different story.
How dare you? That's a conspiracy.
Candace, I need my producer on this now.
But if let's hear you're Hunter Biden. Someone says, "Hey, you fathered a kid in Arkansas." You have a choice to make there. Let's say you say I'm innocent. I didn't father that child. What are you going to claim? Well, we had sex, but it's not my kid. Well, I kissed her, but I never had sex with her. Oh, well, I was never in that bar. Donald Trump and the people around him seem to want to make this line of like, well, I never went to America before. I've never been there. I don't know what you're talking about. And it's like, well, now when anyone can say, place you in America at any time in your life, you've lost. And that's what happened with quid pro quo.
He would never say that. He'd just say that he's never been in a place with an A in the name.
There you go. Yeah, actually even more. So now they set up this super easy hurdle for anyone to clear. Quid pro quo. Everyone knows it happens all the time in foreign policy. They're able to highlight that easily.
Didn't you make a quid pro quo with your wife when you married her?
100%. I didn't get into this thing with nothing in return. Absolutely. I got 5 kids and a vasectomy. And guess what? I'm still quidding the pro. Look at just go to break.
Well, we'll get back to that. More on the impeachment hearings when we come back. No, not that.
5 and a vasectomy plus this new one that just came in?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
Some urologist is getting sued.
Before we get back into the conversation, we want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor, which is probably the reason for Happy Glenn.
No.
Oh.
No, I'm right around the holiday, so that makes me happy. I will tell you that Relief Factor, I am celebrating an anniversary in about 4 weeks of 2 years on Relief Factor. I was going to the ranch for Christmas. I had just been there for Thanksgiving. It's at 7,500 feet, and it's really cold. Both of those things kill me. And I was going back for Christmas, and I said, honey, I think this is going to be the last time I can go. I can't go. One time we had to drive, we flew in, and that altitude on top of the other altitude killed me. We had to actually drive home from the ranch. And I said, I don't think I can do it anymore. She said, you're trying Relief Factor. I've been taking it for 2 years this Christmas, and it's why I can go to the ranch all the time. And it works. It works.
And there are so many viewers and listeners who write in and share their success stories as well. You can try out Relief Factor. Go to relieffactor.com. Get their 3-week quick start pack for $19.95. 70% of the people who try it go on to keep ordering more. That's how many people it's working for. You can be out of pain too. Go to relieffactor.com, or you can call 800-500-8384. So just getting back into these impeachment hearings, there was something that struck me when I was watching Sondland's testimony. They brought up an email. It was Exhibit 8. They brought up an email between Sondland, Gordon, Pompeo, and Lisa Kenna. And, of course, this is the Democrats questioning. So they have this particular portion highlighted about a possible meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky. And Sondland is telling them, telling Mike Pompeo, I would ask Zelensky to look him, Trump, in the eye and tell him that once Ukraine's new justice folks are in place, Zelensky should be able to move forward publicly and with confidence on those issues of importance to POTUS. Now, that's the part that's highlighted. Zelensky should be able to move forward publicly on those issues of importance to POTUS. The following line is, and to the U.S.
Oops.
But the Democrats didn't highlight that. That was the entirety of the sentence was with confidence on those issues of importance to POTUS and to the U.S.
So that's just a terrible mistake. They just didn't happen to see those next few words.
Oops.
What a tragedy.
Well, no, what happened is, it's clear. It ran out of ink, and then they shook it, and then
they got it again, and then they got it again. But I mean, I read this, and I'm like, this is what we keep saying is, okay, would it help Trump? Would it benefit Trump personally? Sure, but is it not beneficial to the United States to find out what happened to $7 billion of taxpayer money?
Let's remember that the Ukraine makes Nigerian princes look like somebody you want to invite to Thanksgiving dinner, right? It's corrupt.
You know what was amazing was Rudy Giuliani said to me, I said, how do you trust Lysenko and Shokin? He said, I don't. I don't trust anyone in Ukraine. He said, it is completely corrupt.
You have governments that are corrupt, and then you have corruptions that have some semblance of a government. That's what you have in the Ukraine. I mean, it is the lowest on the list. It is pure corruption. So, you know, I have people who have come at me on Twitter and said, are you really okay with the president saying that? I'm like, yes, absolutely. If we have foreign interests there, and they're saying, well, he was getting dirt on a political opponent. Well, Joe Biden's not his political opponent. Not yet. There is no Democratic candidate. And I understand.
And this is before Joe Biden even came into the race.
Yeah. This was about Hunter Biden. This was an issue. And then this video is going around of Joe Biden requesting quid pro quo and ultimately getting it. Or you're not getting $1 million, and then SOB. You know, he's got the whole Joe thing going.
And I think we need to ask our friends who don't see this the same way. Just say, we lost $7 billion. Okay, just that. Forget about everything else. We lost $7 billion. They wanted to pour another $500 million into it. And that wouldn't be the last, okay? The president, Trump, already had given them the Javelin system. So he had given them more money. This is more money on top of it, and they'll continue to ask for more. You lost $7 billion of our money. Which one seems wrong? A person who says, stop looking into that, or I won't give you any more money, or start looking into that, or I won't give you any more money. And if you notice Sondland's testimony today, he was very clear in his opening statement that he had told Zelensky for Trump that he wanted an open and transparent investigation, not a sham. Now, later he goes on and says, well, I don't even know if he needed to do the investigation. Well, wait a minute, because your documents here show that you said that the president wanted an open and transparent investigation. That should be our standard on every country, even England.
Sure.
I want to know what happened to the damn money.
Well, I mean, I'm also like, maybe we should have a law that says we should have quid pro quo for every single amount of foreign aid that we send anywhere. Like, I don't want to send anyone any amount of money if there's no conditions attached.
Crazy idea. What if we don't send foreign aid to places?
Well, I prefer that.
Okay,
I
now
would
look,
prefer that.
Okay, let's look at a current recent example. Trump says we're going to pull these special operators back from the border from Turkey. The Kurds are on their own. Okay. How many nations stepped in and said, we'll come in and take care of the Kurds? None of them.
Russia.
Now, at any but in a different way.
Yeah.
I can pull up my phone at any given time. I can go to an app that has my stocks, and I can look at all the things that I've invested in, and I can click on that, and I can say, okay, here's the current news. Here's what's trending. Here's what's going on. This is what's happening with my money. I invested in this company. Is it good? Is it bad? Do I want to buy? Do I want to sell? I have the right to do that. Why? Because, damn it, it's my money. And so if I'm going to do that, again, with money that is not mine, because, again, nothing is government funded.
It's us.
I have the responsibility to go in there and check and see if this is still a good investment.
So a bishop of mine, when I first started to be successful, I went to him and I said, I grew up in a poor family. I've never been responsible with money, and I want to give. How do I give? How do I make sure that that's right? And he happened to be a former head of Goldman Sachs, okay? And he said,
It's a career change.
that's quite a career change. But he said, I look at it differently, and it may be my background. He said, but I think it's the best way to look at it. Your charitable dollars are investments in people. Whatever it is you're trying to cure, which organization gets the most amount of that dollar to that recipient? That's how you invest your dollars. And it is an investment in charity. Aid is an investment in people. Well, all of the USAID money is an investment. We invested $7 billion. $7 billion. We don't know what happened to it. That is, in my world, that's when the Lord shuts you down.
Right.
Because you're irresponsible with that money. Our country is absolutely irresponsible.
It's putting corn seed out on asphalt is what it is. That's not fertile ground. That's not something that's going to return to you. You don't invest something where there's not going to be a return on the investment.
But in this case, there is a return on the investment. And that's what this is really all about. This is about civil society 2.0, period. The investment that they're looking to pay off is a new shadow justice system through the Anti-Corruption Bureau and George Soros' organization, a new constitution in Ukraine, and a Ukraine that is beholden to the United States and will do what the United States asks it to do. That's the investment. George Soros lays it out in a leaked email that we showed during our special on the Democrats' Hydra. What was that, last week? It is fertile ground, but only if you're corrupt or you're the State Department wanting to own Ukraine.
Final takeaway from all of the hearings today is
This right here. That's really all that matters.
Is this yours?
That's a great point.
You sure?
Really?
Somebody was wearing that today?
Final
I
takeaway.
love that.
That's what matters right
He
there.
didn't kill himself.
You can get it for one more week.
Where?
9 Line Apparel.
There you go. 9 Line Apparel. Go get you one. Back in a minute.
One more week would have that seemed like had the rights on his name or something?
No. Catholic priest.
Hey, don't forget, Glenn has an exclusive behind the paywall at BlazeTV.com exclusive interview with Rudy Giuliani.
If you missed the show, you'll find it there. It's only for subscribers. But what he said in the last 10 to 15 minutes was pretty incredible.
It's so important that you hear this, you hear the actual facts of what is really going on. You're not going to hear it from CNN, all right? You got to get it at BlazeTV.com. Use promo code NEWS and you will get $10 off of your annual subscription. Plus, you get access to other things like Overtime Here, which is happening in about 20 seconds, where we go over more news of the day. I mean, the impeachment hearing, it ate up all of our time, having to go through all of the insane drivel and Adam Schiff with his big crazy eyes. Ugh.
So weird.
Now we get into the fun stuff. All right, but you got to watch it at blazetv.com. Use promo code NEWS.
It's like a thumb with a face.